Hello and welcome back to Sports Tower Talk. I'm your host, Elijah Loyola. We are moving on to the second team in the NFC South Division who finished second placed, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, I may be a Bucs fan, but I'm going to give them a fair evaluation about what they need to address. And quite frankly, it was a very disappointing season for the Buccaneers. They finished 8-9 on another losing record and lost the division for the first time since 2020 when they didn't win the Super Bowl. They didn't win the division that year, but they went on to win the Super Bowl, which was a massive success with Tom Brady at the helm. And now it's switched over to Baker Mayfield, which was his worst season as a Tampa Bay Buccaneer. Todd Bowles and Jason Licht have to fix this team very clearly, especially considering the fact that they were not able to bring in as many players as they thought, but brought in some quality free agent players to help this team out. So let's take a look at the free agent market that Tampa Bay had and who they signed. Jason Licht was a very smart GM, and he's found a way to give the Buccaneers some cap space in order to sign in some free agent players. On the offensive side, they were able to sign running back Kenneth Gainwell to be the second string running back behind the starter Bucky Irving, with Rashad White leaving in free agency. They also were able to re-sign tight ends Ko Keith and Kate Allen to be back on the roster. But the more help they needed was on the defensive side. They were able to bring in edge rusher Al-Qaeda Muhammad, defensive lineman Ashawn Robinson, defensive tackle Raheem Nunez-Roches, and linebacker Alex Anzalone to the roster. All four of these guys will be a major help to bring some veteran presence and quality play for rotational depth on the defense. But that's not where the underlying issue starts. The Buccaneers are going to go into their first season without having wide receiver Mike Evans and linebacker Levante David. Mike Evans left the Buccaneers in free agency to sign with the San Francisco 49ers, and Levante David retired earlier this month. The Buccaneers lose both of their franchise legends and are going through a lot to understand what needs to be filled in. The Buccaneers on offense are fine. They drafted a lot of key players and they're young and fast, but they still need to add a few more players for rotational depth to the roster. But the problem lies with the defense. There was a quote that I did see earlier that there are 16 players that are aged 29 or older. Half of these players weren't on the roster last year, and most of these players are now currently on the defense. Todd Bowles needs to understand that the Tampa Bay defense needs youth for their roster, and the edge rusher and linebacker positions are the most underlying position that they need to address. So let's take a look at the mock draft that I set up for the Buccaneers to improve their defense further and get some youth. Jason Licht understands that trading back is the smart way for Tampa Bay to go in this draft. Originally having 7, I had found a way to give the Buccaneers 12 draft picks in this draft class. Starting off by trading from 15 and trading back all the way to 29, earning Cassius Howell in that process. And with the extra picks they did grab, they were able to bring in Jacob Rodriguez, Malachi Lawrence, and Gennings Dunker, Devin Moore, Dominique Orange, and Malik Muhammad all in the first round, bringing in 2 young edge rushers to help them out on the side, 2 cornerbacks to bring in the youth, and having an offensive guard to help the offensive line out. The defensive lineman also is another issue too as well, especially with Kalijah Kancey need to find a way to stay healthy on the roster, and that Vita Vea's contract is coming to an end next year. As for the late round picks, they draft a tight end in Oscar Delp and get a second defensive lineman in Xavier Harris for the depth, while bringing in an offensive tackle in Emil Wagner, a wide receiver in Deshaun Stribling, and another linebacker in Xavier Sorley Jr. Now, looking at this seems very unrealistic, but honestly, this makes a lot of sense for a number of reasons. For one, Tampa Bay always finds a way to get the cap free to sign free agents, but it's never enough, and they're always in low cap situations. Not to mention, a lot of their players heading into the free agent market next year, and some of those names are Baker Mayfield, Yaya Diaby, Cody Mock, Vita Vea, Anthony Nelson, and much more. But that understands the fact that when they use the money for the next offseason, they won't have the money to sign more free agents as they're bringing in these guys to stay on the roster. Hence why Tampa Bay should be focusing on drafting young players in this draft class, even if it meant giving up a couple of their future draft picks next year in order to put the focus right now. But before we get to any further, I want to talk about some of these draft picks that make a lot of sense for Tampa Bay on their roster. And I'm starting off with Cassius Howell. Cassius Howell, being a 6'2", 253-pound edge rusher, is a high motor and dynamic player that's become one of college football's most productive pass rushers. Howell displays elite explosiveness with a devastating first step off the line, extensive pass rush arsenal, and has a tremendous bend around the edge. He is the complete pass rush package, and despite his undersized and underarmed length, he has the versatility to play both interior and both sides of the edge with very strong hands throughout the rush and can set the edge effectively with a good anchor. Tampa Bay understands that the edge rusher position has been an underlying need in recent years, especially that none of the players have reached double-digit sacks in over the past 4 seasons. Cassius Howell will definitely bring in some youth and speed at the side of the position immediately to help bring the Tampa Bay defense get more sacks and more pressures. The next player is linebacker Jacob Rodriguez. Jacob Rodriguez, at 6'1", 231 pounds, is a draft prospect that put up one of the most decorated college seasons, becoming the consensus best linebacker and winning every single defensive award, that being the Butkus, the Benerick, the Risky, and Lombardi awards. Looking at his tape, he shows elite ball hawking skills with 13 career forced fumbles, and with 7 of them led the whole college football league in 2025, while also having 306 career tackles. He plays from sideline to sideline with closing range and is a former quarterback with exceptional processing and offensive recognition. He has true pure instinct in zone coverage and has a relentless motor that runs on full speed constantly. With the retirement of Lavonte David, the Buccaneers have to address the linebacker spot. Even with the additions of Alex Anzalone and Christian Rosenboom in free agency, Servasi Dennis is still there as well, but that's not enough to help the linebacker unit out. Jacob Rodriguez will definitely be an immediate asset on the starting lineup to help bring this more coverage and better tackling for the linebacker unit. A few more players to note for the Buccaneers mock draft class. Jennings Dunker had a standout career in Iowa as one of the best offensive linemen in this draft class, and also had an impressive combine to show out. The Buccaneers need more depth at the guard position, especially with Cody Mauch trying to come back from injury, and that Ben Bredesen is the oldest lineman that the Buccaneers have. Jennings Dunker would be a great position to draft for, especially for rotational depth. Dominique Orange, for another one, is one of the best nose tackle players in this draft class as well. Should either the Buccaneers lose Vita Vea or if Kalijah Kancey does not improve in this draft class, getting a player like this would really help bring the defensive line out to help stop the run and get some pressure. And finally, tight end Oscar Delp brings a lot of value for the Buccaneers as another tight end to be used. With newly offensive coordinator Zach Robinson, he'll definitely use his tight end for sure, with both Colt Keefe and Kate Autumn being brought back, though Colt Keefe is more the blocking type more than the receiving, and they will need another receiving tight end to help out, and Oscar Delp can be that kind of player. To understand the fact, Tampa Bay has a lot going on their plate, and there are a lot of questions going forward for this team, especially considering the fact that if there was another losing season in Tampa Bay coming for the next year, major changes will come, but Tampa Bay wants to avoid that, especially with the type of roster they do have. The expectation for the Buccaneers is to get back to the winning ways they had last time before this season, and the expectation for them is to win the division again and compete for another Super Bowl. Like the Panthers, they do have a lot of competition because each of their teams in the division has improved drastically compared to those of the Buccaneers. So it'll really all depend on how this team will handle itself going forward to prepare themselves for the next season. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to tune in for another episode on Sports Tampa Talk. Please leave a like and a comment on the video with your thoughts on it. And make sure to always follow me on YouTube, Instagram, and on X. And as always, I will see you next time.